introductions, and if we can start from, I'll start it off and then go to Councilmember Heilman right after myself. I'm Lester Friedman. I am the voting member from the city of Beverly Hills.
And I'm John Heilman, council member from West Hollywood. I'm the alternate and voting member today.
Hernan Molina, staff to City of West Hollywood.
David Fenn, also staff to City of West Hollywood.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Cow, Planning and Transportation Deputy for Tracy Park, Council District 11 in City of Los Angeles.
John Mirish, Council Member, City of Beverly Hills, alternate.
Oops, sorry about that. Nick Fox Robbins, Community Relations, Metro.
Jody Lidvack, Community Relations. It's good to be back.
Georgia Sheridan, Senior Director at Metro and directing the K-Line Northern Extension.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Allison Yo. I'm the Interim Deputy Chief Planning Officer for LA Metro.
Good afternoon, Chelsea Byers, Vice Mayor, City of West Hollywood. Just here. That's all. Shelley Wolfberg, Assistant to the City Manager, City of Culver City.
Aaron Erickson, City of Culver City, voting member.
Hi, everybody. Austin Sear, alternate for Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, voting member.
Hi, everyone. Nicole Leonard-Jagamian, staff for City of Santa Monica.
Hello, Jesse Zwick, council member, Santa Monica, alternate member.
Josh Kirby, City of West Hollywood, staff member.
Cecilia Stellano, West Side City's Council of Government, Executive Director.
I work for Santa Monica, live in West Hollywood.
Winnie Fong with the West Side City's Council of Governments.
Lauren Langer, COG, West Side City's Council of Governments Legal Counsel.
Riley O'Brien, West Side City's Council of Governments Analyst.
Cindy Owens, City of Beverly Hills, I'm staff. You want me to take the microphone around the room?
Hi, Susie Herrera with Cedar Sinai Government Relations Team. Janet Turner with Congressman Ted Lieu.
Hi, everyone. Sitara Yavari, Human Services Manager, City of Santa Monica.
Zoe Montaner, founder of Compassionate Santa Monica and candidate for Santa Monica College Board of Trustees.
Robbie Steinberg, I'm a field rep in Assemblymember Zabur's office covering Santa Monica and the Hollywood Hills.
Joshua Marin Mora, field representative for Assemblymember Zabur, West Hollywood.
Sherwin Shamoil from the office of Assemblymember Rick Chavez Zabur, senior field representative. I cover Beverly Hills. Welcome to the city.
Hi, everyone. Anthony Chica, LA Metro.
And thank you all very much for being here. Next item is opening remarks. I'm going to take advantage of this time, although I was not originally supposed to be giving opening remarks. I am now. I have handed out to, I believe, each representative from each city a flyer on the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement Conference that will be held in the city of Beverly Hills December 11th through 13th. This is being hosted by the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, which is a 501c3 and is co-sponsored by the city of Beverly Hills. Each mayor from each of the cities almost nationwide are being invited to this conference. I've left the slip out to give to the mayor of each city whether or not they will take an alternate. If the mayor is not interested or available, should be something that is taken up with the group. I think it'll be a very enlightening experience to have, and I encourage everyone. We already, I believe, have about 50 mayors nationwide who have signed up for this, and it promises to be a very good conference, and encourage you to attend. So with that, we will move on to our action items. The first action item is the June 13th board meeting notes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second, and if we can call the vote, please. Do I vote? Okay, all those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, so motion carries. Next item is an amendment to the county homelessness contract, and I will turn it over to COG staff to provide the details. Cecilia and Winnie, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Friedman. So we've come to you before with the County Local Solutions Funds contract. The reason we're coming to you today is an amendment because, as often happens, cities have some changes in the programs they want to run, and we want to amend the contract to accommodate that. Winnie will give you some more detail on that. But because we acknowledge that cities need to have the flexibility to make changes in this contract, we've also put forward in the packet a second item, sub-item in here, which would authorize the executive director to administratively process these types of amendments when cities decide they want to change what they spend the money on, so long as they're within their budget cap, so long as it's within the amount of money and it's consistent with the allowable uses in the county's main contract. So just a little bit of a framing. I'm going to turn it over to Winnie now to talk about details.
Thank you. So in terms of program changes, as you can see in the packet, City of Beverly Hills proposes to remove a few programs for the local solutions funds to allocate that to its permanent supportive housing program. And Culver City proposes to update its existing homelessness plan. So they to expand permanent supportive housing and applying for a Project Home Key. So they would like to allocate some funding for that. So that would modify our statement of work. Again, this does not change the city's overall allocation of their portion of the local solution funds. Any questions?
We do have, I believe, a public comment on this item. Oh, we no longer have a public comment.
Okay.
Are there any online public comments? I see no hands raised. So
I think we're still in need of a second.
So we need,
Second.
we have, who
Heilman,
moved it?
Vinswick, Heilman.
And it's been seconded? Okay, so then we will have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so the motion carries. Next item we have are program changes, and am I supposed to read what the?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I might add. When this is for everyone to comment on. When you then make executive decisions, right, what we just delegated, I would expect that we will get a report back to the COG at the next following meeting, right?
Yes, we'll report back any administrative items we've taken and bring it back to you to report back on what we've approved.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Oh, so going back, the next item is program changes and
It will be item 3C, the Metro Service Council Representative nominations.
I'm sorry, the Metro West Side Service Contract Council Representative nominations. And who's going to present on that?
I'm happy to do that. As it seems, almost every meeting, we have some positions to fill for Metro Service Representative. We have solicited interest from all the members of the COG and from the cities, and we're really delighted to have received a letter of interest from West Hollywood Vice Mayor Chelsea Byers, who's joining us today. So we have recommended that the board approve Vice Mayor Byers as the COG's representative to the West Side Central Service Council for Metro. That's the action.
Okay, so is there any, do we have any discussion? Anybody want to discuss that? So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And we'll have a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. So we're moving right along.
And Mr. Freeman, we now our chairs, we're now joined by our chair, La Torre. Thank you very much for stepping in.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Just use this microphone.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you all very much. Okay, great. My apologies. I was actually early, but for the next meeting in Culver City. My name is Oscar de la Torre, and so welcome everyone. It's my first time chairing the meeting. And so thank you, Mayor Friedman, for stepping in at the last minute. The next item on the agenda is we're on item
3D.
3D, West Los Angeles Armory redevelopment. This action, this was right here, yeah, okay. The recommended action is to authorize the West Side COG to transmit a letter requesting the County Department of Health Services to explore strategies to cite crisis stabilization and substance use disorder services at the West LA Armory. Something that's so important. We see the crisis that we're experiencing the crisis in our streets right now. Someone told me something. They said we live in a first world city with, in some cases, experiencing third world conditions, and so we want to address the mental health crisis that's impacting our region. And so I'm very excited to have this item before us. So I'm just gonna, Nicole?
Yeah.
Okay, Nicole's gonna do the presentation. Thank you, Nicole.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Like I said, I'm Nicole Energy-Gamian, and I'm with the City of Santa Monica's Housing and Human Services Division, and I'm overseeing the development of the city's behavioral health strategy. For about the past year and a half, Santa Monica has been working to understand the key needs regarding mental health and substance use in Santa Monica and across the West Side. And one of our preliminary findings indicate that there are significant gaps in crisis and step-down services. There have not been enough mental health crisis beds on the West Side for some time, and with the recent expansion of mobile crisis response teams across the county, which often bring people with mental health issues to urgent care centers, these crisis stabilization services have become even more impacted and are often at capacity, at times leaving people in crisis with nowhere to go. We've also found that while some behavioral health resources are being expanded, which is great, they are also becoming more consolidated on the east side of the county. For example, the county is expanding some crisis services at their hospital sites, but these are all located on the east side. And similarly, UCLA Resnick, as many of you know, is relocating and expanding their neuropsych hospital, but they're moving from Westwood to the Mid-Wilshire neighborhood. So this will continue to leave the West Side with gaps in these behavioral health services. In addition to mental health services, our study has identified a significant lack of substance use disorder or SUD services as well. One of our closest sobering centers is in downtown Los Angeles. There are currently no detox programs in all of Service Planning Area 5, and there are also limited residential treatment programs. These gaps in care make it challenging and at times impossible for adults, particularly those experiencing homelessness, to move through the behavioral health care system as intended and to step down to appropriate levels of care. Instead, people often end up back in emergency rooms, in jail, or on the street. Santa Monica has been working closely with the COG to support the West Side Regional Behavioral Health Facility Implementation Plan and to share learnings from our study to help inform this regional effort. Simultaneously, we've also been exploring more immediate opportunities to expand and enhance services. One opportunity I want to bring forth before you today is at the West Los Angeles Armory. This site is just south of the VA off the 405 in West LA. Many of you might be familiar with it. It's being redeveloped by the Department of Health Services into what's called a modified safe landing site. The county currently has one safe landing site on the east side in the West Athens neighborhood. The safe landing model focuses on people experiencing homelessness and provides triage beds, 24/7 clinical services, including mental health care, medical care, and sobering services. Safe landing also includes interim housing, and clients can receive assistance applying for benefits as well as interim and permanent housing. At the Armory, we've been told that DHS is drawing up the site plan and that the pared down safe landing model, which they're referring to as Safe Landing Light, will include supportive interim housing, some medical care, and 24/7 triage beds. This will be a significant addition to the West Side and will bring much needed services. However, even with these new services, there will still be some gaps in care. And we recognize that one facility cannot address all of these gaps, but we also see the Armory as a really unique opportunity. As we know, land on the West Side is incredibly limited, and the Armory is relatively geographically accessible for all of the West Side cities. Additionally, the site plan is still being developed, so services could potentially be expanded to include crisis stabilization and substance use treatment. Co-locating these services with the other planned safe landing services will facilitate linkages and help ensure clients remain engaged in the system of care. And in turn, this will allow people to be served more effectively, help bring these services online sooner, and facilitate long-term savings. We also recognize that funding the development and operation of behavioral health programs has always been and will continue to be a challenge. However, this should not be a reason to limit access to these essential services. This is a critical time when the region's needs far exceed the availability of services, and we should be committed to helping identify sources of funding to meet these needs. In light of these things, and given that the safe landing site at the Armory will be a regional resource on the West Side, we would like to ask for the COG's support in requesting that Los Angeles County reimagine services plan for the redevelopment of the Armory by expanding programming at the site to include crisis stabilization and substance use treatment. The city of Santa Monica has drafted a letter to DHS, and we are asking that the COG member cities sign on to that letter today. There's more information about the history of the Armory and lack of services on the West Side in your packets, and I'm also happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
So any questions regarding the action? One question that someone asked, because of the site, the chosen site, it's not, the services just won't be for veterans. It'll be open for everybody, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's not meant to just serve veterans. It's not actually on the VA, it's just south of it. So
Just south, okay, so that's great to clarify that. And then the action that we're requesting is to sign on to the letter, but there was also one suggestion that we can have every individual sort of council also approve the letter. Is that sort of the two things that we're asking for today?
yeah, so the ask is to have the COG member cities here today sign on to the letter, you're right. And then yes, also have your city councils write letters as well. And
Great.
we have that letter, or you can write your own.
Great. Any further questions before we vote? Yes. John?
Not a question, just to let you know that we'll be sending a letter from at least my office, but hopefully the entire council. And I would move to approve the action that we joined this letter.
Great. Any further discussion before we take action?
Just one question. Is this the facility that is on, is it Veteran or Federal and Wilshire Boulevard? Is that right across from the?
Just south of Wilshire. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no further, yes. Councilmember Zwick.
Just to kind of game out, what happens next after the letter, I imagine the county, as you mentioned, might cite funding issues. Is there some way that the COG or the cities collectively could try to negotiate further after this point when it comes to trying to meet that gap potentially?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have identified some potential funding sources that are listed in your agenda packet. One is the Behavioral Health Continuing Infrastructure Program that was just opened up. The RFA was just released by the state. There may be other funding solutions too. I think that if that's something that the COG is interested in moving forward with, we can certainly continue to explore what other options exist. I know that will also be something that's coming out of the behavioral health project that the COG itself is working on. So we can continue to talk about funding sources both within the city of Santa Monica and for the entire West Side through this regional body. Yeah.
Great. Any other last comments before we vote? So
We need a second.
we have a motion on the table by Councilmember Hellman.
Second.
Councilmember Friedman, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, any abstentions? And the motion, abstention, okay. Great, so duly noted, and that's County Supervisor Horvath's office, yes, okay, abstaining, thank you very much. Austin, yes, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item is the item number 7, And so that would be, we have two presentations, correct?
Number 4, the executive director's report.
Oh, okay, executive
Okay.
director's report. Cecilia.
Yeah, so I'll be very brief. As we like to do, we summarize the activities that have been happening since our last meeting. We have an attachment that gives you a sense of the breadth and the depth of some of the stuff going on in the working groups, particularly in transportation. I did want to make a note of one particularly positive development. And that is, as you may recall, as part of the budget proposal from the governor had proposed to eliminate all of the REAP funds, the Regional Early Action Program funds that we would have received about $23 million, which would be funded to sub-regional councils of governments. And this West Side Cities COG alone was going to receive $330,000. So that was on the table, on the chopping block. We're pleased to note that the final budget restored most of that funding, and that SCAG also made us whole. So we can move forward with our REAP 2.0 work program. We're really delighted to hear that, and are going to be moving forward on issuing an RFP to provide technical assistance to the cities in their REAP 2.0 programs, as well as exploring the formation of a regional housing trust for the West Side to help us leverage additional funding. As we have noted in other meetings in the past, other COGs have done this, and there's an ability to get matching funds from the state that will take our dollars a little bit farther. So that's the main thing I wanted to highlight in our report, but I do hope you'll have a chance to take a look at the other activities that your staff and we have been actively engaged in over the last month or so, or 2 months or so.
Very great. That's all for the executive director's report. Any questions? If not, we'll move on then to item number 5 on the agenda, transportation. And we do have a presentation from COG staff, Riley O'Brien, on the Metro K-Line project, draft EIR and regional transit ridership trends.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I will make these presentations quite brief. The first one is focused on the K-Line Northern Extension, which was formerly the Crenshaw Northern Extension. And we are talking about that today because Metro just released their draft environmental impact report. So we will be giving a quick overview of the project and some of the previous milestones that we have shared with previous boards, and how we've got to the point we're at today and what some of the next steps are. So just to give an overview of this project, on the left side, we have the current LA Metro rail and busway map. On the right side, we have a visualization of where this Crenshaw Northern Extension, or now known as K-Line Northern Extension, would connect. So the pink line on the left, as you may know, connects the Expo line or E-line to almost to LAX. They should have that done, last I heard, in 2025. So hopefully that will be complete soon, connecting to the Green Line or C line. And the Crenshaw Northern Extension or K-Line Northern Extension would connect that pink line further north through Mid-City Los Angeles up to Hollywood and through West Hollywood as well. So back in 2020, Metro completed an alternatives analysis, which identified basically 5 potential routes, A, B, C, and then 2 other variations of A. In 2020, they also found that while the length would be significantly longer for these San Vicente and La Cienega or hybrid alignments to the west, they would also connect to more jobs and more people. And in 2022, they narrowed these alignments down to 3, the La Brea alignment, the Fairfax alignment, and the San Vicente Fairfax alignment. And the main difference here is between Pico Boulevard and essentially Hollywood and Highland is basically how far west the alignments would go towards. And the San Vicente Fairfax alignment would go furthest to the west, would be the longest, would have the most stations and the longest travel time. At that time, our board actually recommended that we provide a support letter in favor of that westernmost alignment, the San Vicente Fairfax hybrid alignment. And now, roughly 2 years later, we did have a big milestone in this project, the 2024 release of the draft environmental impact report. That was released on July 23rd, which is the same day as our transportation working group meeting. So we very quickly had some reactions to that. It identified the location of the maintenance and storage facility, which would essentially just expand the current facility next to LAX. And they also, in the EIR, proposed some staging or some potential construction sections for, phasing this project, I should say. So I will just note that these are a couple of slides from the draft environmental impact report's executive summary. That full summary is in your agenda packet, and the voting members also have these slides available. So I will pause there. I know we have Metro staff available for any questions you all have, but we wanted to bring this to you all for discussion, and I will pause there.
Any questions? And Metro staff is, where's the Metro staff? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So any questions from Metro staff or regarding the presentation? So yes, Councilmember Zwick.
So admittedly, without having been able to read through the entire report, does the EIR make any judgments about the three options when it comes to impact or other things that were analyzed?
I'm going to break that up into two questions. The draft EIR evaluates the alignments equally, so there is no preference at this stage. We are collecting public comment, and then following the close of the public comment period, we as staff would be making a recommendation to take to the Metro Board to recommend an alignment for further study. And the Metro Board would then vote to select an alignment, which we call the locally preferred alternative. The draft DIR is a disclosure document, so it is disclosing potential environmental impacts. And there are a few potential environmental impacts which are spelled out in the document, and I can summarize them here if that's desired, but that is the main purpose of the document.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I would like, if you could, please discuss the environmental impacts and how they differ amongst the three.
Sure. At a very high level, we've looked at all of the environmental resources under CEQA, and we've broken them into levels of impact. So which categories have no impact, less than significant, but could be mitigated. So that's a category where we would have a mitigation measure, but then it brings it down to less than significant. And then the last level of impact is significant and unavoidable. So there are a few areas where we have significant and unavoidable impacts during construction. So during construction, we would have a significant and unavoidable impact for paleontological resources. This is due to the fact that we would be tunneling below ground using tunnel boring machines. When you're using a tunnel boring machine, you're very, very deep underground, anywhere from 40 to over 100 feet below ground. So you're not able to monitor what type of elements are in the soil. So there's a potential to destroy some type of paleontological resource. However, where we construct stations, we typically cut out, it's called station box, we're cutting out that station. And at those locations, we would have monitors to see if there's any paleontological resources. But for the sections where we're tunneling, we cannot do that. So that applies to all of the alignments, anywhere where we're tunneling. The other area where we have potentially significant unavoidable impacts is related to cultural resources, which are historic buildings. So along the San Vicente Fairfax alignment, which is the green alignment on the map, at the San Vicente Santa Monica station, there's a potential significant impact to the Santa Palm Car Wash, which is a site that we're looking at as a potential station entrance or construction staging. The other area where we have potential impacts is at the Hollywood and Highland station. At that station, we would be connecting in to the existing B line, the red line. And that's another area where we need space to construct a new station. So we would potentially impact 2 to 4 historic structures. I want to emphasize that the draft DIR is evaluating the worst case scenario. So there's a lot more design to come. We're collecting public comments. There are other areas where we've worked to essentially reconstruct a historic building as part of a new station. So the station that's being constructed, the entrance to the UCLA Westwood station that's at Wilshire and Westwood is actually integrating a new station into a historic Paul Williams building, the Westwood Medical Plaza. And we're taking down a building, building a station, and then reconstructing the building to match the integrity of the architecture and the style and celebrate that building. So that is something that we could look at for this project based on next phases of design. And then I'll just say during operations, we have not found any significant and unavoidable impacts.
Great. Any other questions? Yes.
The COG has already sent a letter in support of a particular alignment. Is there something that the COG could do now to comment on the EIR to, I guess, emphasize that position of the COG? Would that be appropriate at this point?
Yes, at any point, you can provide comment letters to Metro. So the public comment period for the draft EIR, we will accept any comments that stakeholders want to make. I will note that this is a little bit different than the typical comment period. We're always accepting comments from stakeholders. During the public comment period, we're very focused on comments that relate to the environmental analysis and the findings of the draft EIR. So if you think that there's something wrong or overlooked or need more information on, that's kind of the purpose of this comment period so that we can update it in the final EIR. If you're looking to provide support or preferences or anything like that, that could occur after the comment period or during the comment period. So again, we will continue to receive comments on the project following this comment period, but the comment period is very specific to the draft EIR itself.
And my understanding is that the San Vicente alignment is the one that serves the most people and would have the highest ridership. I mean, that to me is something that should be emphasized as part of the environmental analysis.
The draft EIR is primarily focused on impacts. CEQA is more of a negative point of view of what are the impacts rather than the benefits, but certainly we care about ridership and benefits. So following the close of the comment period, we as staff will be looking at all of the information. The draft EIR is one piece. We also have done a ridership study, and that will be used as part of our recommendation along with other analysis to make a recommendation.
Well, I guess I would twist that and say it is a negative environmental impact if alternatives are chosen that have lower ridership.
When is the comment period terminate?
September 5th.
September 5th. So I do understand that the Westside COG has taken a position in the, in the past on this item. I would expect that, well, one question is, the letter is not agendized like for today, but September 5th, you said?
Yes, so if, I guess what I would want to clarify is you can do it by September 5th if it's about the draft EIR. If there's anything beyond the draft EIR, we're going to be collecting comments on an ongoing basis.
Great. So we have enough time if Metro received the letter from the Westside COG in the next month.
That's correct.
Approved by the next meeting, that would still be appropriate.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. To the extent that the board would like the executive director to reiterate the support of the Westside Cities COG, we can certainly do that. I also note Councilman Heilman's consideration for ridership is certainly something that would be weighed in a statement of overriding consideration. So if indeed there are potential cultural impacts to those structures at Hollywood and Highland, in a statement of overriding consideration, one could say, but that's overridden by the fact that ridership is so much greater along this alignment. And we could certainly draft a letter to that effect if it is the will of the board.
Great. So
I think the agenda, the to reiterate our support.
Great. Would you like to make a motion? Okay, awesome. And we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second. Great. Thank you very much, Supervisors Horvath, Austin. And okay, any discussion before we vote? Yes.
Upon talking to our staff at LADOT, our staff has told us they need more time to review the different alternatives and the different alignments. So, you know, we expressed that at the committee meeting. And so just wanted to reemphasize that, you know, City of LA needs more time to review the draft EIR.
Great. And us reiterating our support for the line and the extension would not impede your review of the EIR. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
I
Thank
was
you.
gonna say one other thing. Maybe you could attach the last letters to be clear that the board has already taken action on this and we're resubmitting it for this process that shows the letter that was sent. It was in the presentation
Yes.
a while ago.
Thank you for that. I think that's very appropriate. Any further discussion?
So it's nothing new is my point. It's the action that the board's already taken.
Great. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the item? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed and any abstentions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much and appreciate it. And let's move forward to on the same item, regional transit ridership trends.
Thank you, Chair. I will also make this brief, although I do have a few extra slides on this item. Basically, we wanted to provide a quick update on what we discussed during our last meeting related to our sub-regional bus lane network. We received a couple of questions about recent transit ridership trends and safety trends. So we wanted to share some more information that we've gathered from Metro, as well as some of the municipal operators. And wanted to just remind folks of our next steps on this item. So in June, we discussed our sub-regional bus lane network, which we developed with the Council of Governments, or with the Transportation Working Group for the Council of Governments, identifying these 5 corridors as our top priorities for a regional bus lane network. We estimated the cost, thanks to our member jurisdiction, Culver City, at roughly $400,000, slightly less than $400,000 per mile, which would make this would make the network shovel ready for construction, not just lanes, but also supporting amenities such as high quality bus shelters to really make this a high quality transit experience. We mentioned that we do have close to $7 million available over the next 5 years to potentially fund this. And with that in mind, we did receive some questions about ridership trends and some wanted to just provide some information. This is coming from the California Integrative Travel Project, which collects and visualizes data from the National Transit Database. So for all agencies in LA County combined, so that includes Metro, Culver City Bus, Santa Monica Big Blue Bus, LADOT, others throughout the county, we have this clear trend going back 10 years to 2014, where, you know, there are fluctuations month to month, but the data that the agencies submit each month shows that leading up to the pandemic, there was a steady decrease in transit ridership from 2014 to early 2020, a sharp decrease during the COVID-19 pandemic's early months. And then since 2020, actually a steady increase in transit ridership. And that trend has continued now through this year. And we've actually seen each agency that serves the West Side, we've seen a similar trend. So LA Metro has a similar trend, trending upward over the past several years. Similar to LADOT, similar to Santa Monica Big Blue Bus and Culver City Bus. So we actually have seen transit ridership rebound and get close to the pre-pandemic levels for some of these for all of these agencies, in fact. And so when we're looking at this, corridor map, these 5 corridors that we've prioritized, we have also actually seen that trend, in place for some of these specific corridors. So, just looking at, the corridor labeled number 2, and that's not priority, but just for identification, Santa Monica Boulevard, La Cienega Boulevard, Venice Boulevard. The bus lines serving those, by Metro, have also followed a very similar trend where the ridership steadily decreased leading up to 2020, sharply decreased in 2020, and then has actually steadily increased since then. We also received some questions about transit safety. So I wanted to share some data that Metro provided back in June 2024. They compared April 2024 crime rates on the Metro system to April 2023. They actually found a decrease in crime rates compared to the same time the previous year, April 2023, both for crimes against people, property, and society. They are tracking this, I believe, each month. And I know we have Metro staff here to potentially answer some questions on this as well. But some of the improvements that they've also shared with us and talked about in July, they noted they are exploring a tap to exit pilot. So basically not only tapping to enter the station, but also to exit, which has led to some increases in not only safety, but also comfort, the perception of safety and cleanliness and so on. There have been other station improvements, open elevator doors to ensure that people are not misusing those facilities, upgraded and expanded public restrooms, taller fare gates is another thing Metro is looking at. And they're trying to do all of this with a focus on bias-free policing and ensuring that these measures are not impacting folks in any sort of unfair or unjust way. And so with all that in mind, just wanted to reiterate our next steps. These are exactly the same as what we discussed last time. We've refined those cost estimates that I mentioned earlier. We have not changed any of those or received any feedback. So we are now moving forward with developing the RFP for bus lane design and also identifying some funding mechanisms so we can most efficiently use the SCP funds in place. So we will come back in October, hopefully with an action item to program these funds, but we're still working on step 2 and looking ahead to October for our next items here. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, questions? Yes, Councilmember Zwick.
So for the COG's contribution to this, is the idea that this is pre-development design work, or would the COG potentially also fund the construction or implementation of some of these?
So just going back to the this component here, what we're talking about right now is design funding, and we're not proposing any action at this time, but this would be design, outreach, data collection, and engineering, basically everything, blueprints, everything to get ready for construction. And we don't foresee near-term sub-regional equity program funds available for construction at this time. But that's another thing that we're exploring. We would also be looking at federal grants, state grants, and or some combination of those with Metro funding that we may acquire in other ways. So we do have basically $100 million set aside for bus infrastructure, but most of that 100 million is not expected to be available until the 2040s. So we're looking at, again, roughly close to $7 million in the near term. So that's a long way of answering the question with not at this time.
I might also note, again, the connection to the Olympics. The hope is that if we can have a shovel-ready, well-designed project in an area that is the focal point of the Olympic activities, certainly we have the Olympic Village and we have a number of venues, it might make us competitive for federal and state funding in an expedited form.
So having the grants might facilitate getting that money.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, so it's awesome to see ridership and safety measures increasing, expanding, and that's great. So Yeah.
Mr. Chair, yeah.
So if I may, I see the statistics showing that there is a decrease in crime. That's not what the feeling is out in the community. What, if anything, are we doing about that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, like the news stories today of the two incidents over the last day are distressing, is what I would say. We're struggling with it, I think in many of the same ways that, you know, cities are dealing with bigger issues regarding both unhoused and addiction that we didn't see even a few years back. But we want to welcome people back to the system. We want them to both be safe and to feel safe. And we are putting a lot of different things at this. I think as Riley rightly pointed out, it's a balance between a policing approach and bringing other strategies to bear as well. You know, so we have, what do we call it? A multi-pronged, multi-layered approach that's looking at a bunch of different things. We have our ambassadors, we have people out on the system. Obviously, it's a big system, not just the rail system, but the train, but the buses as well. We can't have everybody everywhere at all times. I think the tap to exit proved to have some very positive results at the North Hollywood station. Not just in terms of, as Riley pointed out, how people felt about things, but it discouraged some people from being there who really didn't have a transit reason to be there. And so that's why we're looking at expanding it to other locations.
So I would encourage Metro to discuss with the Beverly Hills Police Department some of their concerns and solutions, because we're going to be having our first Metro station opening fairly soon. And I just encourage that. I think that our police
Yeah, those-
department is at the forefront of making sure that we have a safe station, and they have some very good ideas.
I know that there are conversations going on. I'm not involved in them, but absolutely.
Yes, and I just want to, from in my experience in Santa Monica, has been very fruitful to have our local police department coordinating with Metro and LA County Sheriffs. And I know you're in the process of having your own police unit. And I know that, but do you know how long that would take?
We're told that will take about 5 years to create our own internal public safety unit, which will include a policing element. But we're not waiting for that. And, you know, that's also not, you know, a silver bullet to solve all of these
Yes,
problems.
correct.
There is not a silver bullet.
Yes.
If any of you know of one, please let us know. But,
Yes, no,
yeah.
we understand that. And the tap to exit pilot has shown some positive results, and we're excited that Santa Monica, I heard that we are also in discussions to try to, you know, bring that pilot to the city of Santa Monica.
Correct.
we're
And
excited.
one of the things I just read about that we're looking at doing, and this, I can't speak exactly to how it's going to operate on section 1 of the Purple Line. But as some of you know, when we run our last 2 or so trains in the evening, our practice has been to clear those trains at the end of the line. And I know one of the strategies they're considering doing is perhaps creating some interim places before you get to the end of the line to take people off sooner who may be in need of services when they exit our system. So I don't know where that is. I literally just read about it yesterday for the first time. So again, we're looking at all kinds of things.
Great. Any other questions? Yes, John?
Not really a question, but thank you for the work you're doing. 2 thoughts. One is a design-related issue in terms of the stations. I work by Wilshire in Vermont, and I know at one point the idea was to have these open plazas around the stations. It really is a disaster at that location. It just becomes a gathering place for homeless individuals and others, and it really has not helped the business community around there. So I think that needs to be thought of as new stations are being developed. And the second thought, I know we're focusing a lot on Metro, the Metro line and stations, but bus shelters. And this is something that I think has to be a partnership between Metro and cities, that bus shelters should not be sort of a dumping ground for homeless individuals and taken over by homeless individuals with shopping carts. That's part of what deters people from riding. It's what makes people feel unsafe to ride when they're not able to access the bus shelter for their particular stop. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, 100%. I just want to say two things about that. One is we've been, regarding your comments about Wilshire, Vermont, we've been putting a lot of effort into the Westlake MacArthur Park Station where there's a big plaza and there's been some challenges and we're learning a lot from that. And you know, I am hopeful that if we learn some things that are positive and fruitful and we can take them to some of our other station locations, we will do that. Again, this is part of us all learning by doing. And then in regards to the bus stops and bus shelters, absolutely, it's a partnership. As you are city representatives, you all know that you own and operate the streets and sidewalks. Metro does not, and it is absolutely a partnership. And we look forward to cooperating on all of those things.
Great. Any further questions or comments? Okay. Yes.
Going back to
Yes.
the statistics, thank you for putting that together. And I think that it probably would be valuable for the COG to get this, you know, some kind every 6 months, every year or something. I made sort of an observation, and that was if you looked at the downward trend, we have now hit, if we would extend that, not that one, for the whole thing, yeah, well, any one of those. If you look at the downward trend there, we basically now hit where that downward trend would hit, right? So it's really interesting to see if we're going to continue to grow or if we are going to plateau out now. So for that reason, I think it's interesting for the COG to get this data a little more frequently, because maybe there are some things that we can do from the COG with regards to the public transportation side on the west side. But anyway, so monitoring that would be interesting.
Great, thank you. Maybe quarterly reports or whatever would, you know, whatever is viable for staff to put together. But we want to thank you all for being here, Metro, for listening to these questions, and thank you all for the comments, because I think it's very important for us to keep communication fluid and so we can be responsive to the trouble spots to make you know, public transportation a real success in the county. So thank you all very much. Okay, moving on to the next item. Yes? Oh, wait, we have one more?
Yes, so I believe for non-action items, we do have public comment at the end of the meeting, but is it, oh, we do have to do it now. Okay, excellent.
Okay, we have public comment. Want to introduce yourself and is it 2 minutes? I think everybody. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Hi. I just wanted to add that I came on the 4 line from Santa Monica to Beverly Hills, and I parked my scooter downstairs, so I'm a car-free citizen. And I received an invitation from Metro yesterday that I filled out. You know, they're putting together a public safety advisory committee. So I will recommend every mayor and every council member that is here to reach out to their communities. I'm going to read what they sent to me. Metro is looking for individuals who regularly ride Metro and are committed to supporting the agency in fulfilling its public safety mission statement to safeguard the transit community by taking a holistic, equitable, and welcoming approach to public safety in recognition that each individual is entitled to a safe, dignified, and human experience. The PSAC is comprised of individuals who can contribute their relevant experience not only as riders, but as experts in racial justice, equitable transit, public safety reform, law enforcement, victims' rights, mental health, homelessness, and social services to support this mission. Metro is also seeking to ensure that the perspective of youth, women, seniors, and those with disabilities are represented. Meetings are expected to occur monthly over a 2-year term with the potential of additional committee meetings as deemed necessary. So the applications are open and close on September 6th. If you can share in your communication channels in the community of each city, that will be amazing just to have representation of everybody. Thank you.
Any further public comment? And thank you very much, Zoe, from coming out for your comment. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Okay, so that takes us to item number 6, the Regional Behavioral Health Facility Implementation Strategy. We have an update from the COG staff on the advisory committee for the Regional Behavioral Health Facility Implementation Strategy. So Winnie?
Really quick update. So our staff have met with your city managers and a homelessness working group to start pulling together a list of recommended individuals and entities to serve on this advisory committee. We still need more time to compile the list of representatives and also vet them with the whole group. So we intend to continue meeting this month and come back to the board in October with the recommended list to consider. That's it.
Okay, great. Any questions? Nope. Okay, that takes us to item number 7 on the agenda. We have Austin, Deputy Director from Community Affairs for Supervisor Horvath, who will give us a presentation on the LA County Governance and Ethics Reform.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Wow. When you can pull up the slide, yeah.
Beautiful. And I know there's also copies of the slides on page 55 in your packets. Okay. Well, very excited to be with you all today, speaking about the upcoming ballot measure the voters will have an option to decide upon this November. This was originally a county motion that has now been approved by the County Board of Supervisors and will now go to the ballots in November. For just a little bit of context, this is a charter reform measure. It's a fairly significant one we haven't really seen charter reform of the significance since 1912, over 100 years ago, when the population was around 500,000. We had more cows than people, as well as women not having the right yet to vote. Today, 5 supervisors still see the same county, which now has a population of over 10 million, meaning each supervisor sees roughly 2 million and change. Slide. So right now, we know that there is a desire for accountability and greater representation, as well as transparency, and the stated goals of this measure aim to do that. Some of the mechanisms put in place to achieve those goals is to implement new checks and balances into our government structure. Some of those checks and balances include a county executive elected position and diverting the responsibilities of the supervisor's role between legislative and executive, and giving those executive authorities to a newly elected county executive. Slide. Some examples of existing bodies of government that have a similar structure to the one I just mentioned do include our federal government, which has our Congress responsible for the legislative items, as well as the president, who oversees the executive functions. In our state of California, as well as other states, we have our governor, who is the executive overseer, as well as the legislator that legislates. In the city of Los Angeles, we have our city council, as well as our elected mayor. But with the County Board of Supervisors, we have an elected body of 5 that is both executive and legislative. Slide. So by electing a county executive and bringing forward executive powers under this newly elected county position, they would be overseeing the implementation as well as the budget for the county. And this would also have a transparent process with community engagement throughout the development of the budget. They would also see the accountability of county operations falling under a different role, which was going to be a director of budget and management. And this would essentially be what we have as our current CEO would move into the director of budget and management, reporting then to the elected county executive. Slide. This is a org chart of if the voters select this charter reform, how it will look. We would see the electorate at the top of the org chart, where all of the elected positions ultimately report to. Our assessor, district attorney, sheriff, and board of supervisors are already existing. This would then include a newly founded elected county executive position, and that budget and management director would be reporting to them as seen here on the org chart. Slide. Another critical component of this charter reform is expanding the Board of Supervisors. It is currently 5, the same number it has been since 1887. And this charter reform looks at bringing it to a number of 9. Slide. Taking a quick look here at the existing 3rd supervisorial district, we here are in the metro region. We also have the unincorporated area out east, where it is represented predominantly by the Las Virgenes COG, where my colleagues attend and support those meetings, as well as our San Fernando COG up in the northeast San Fernando Valley. Pretty broad slide. Thank you. And to give a little context too on the magnitude of Los Angeles County, there are currently only 7 states with more population than the County of Los Angeles. California counts as one of those 7. Slide. The number 9 has been considered through every study that we've seen. They come through roughly once in a generation, every 10 years or so. We've seen different studies, and 9 has been regularly looked at and regularly supported. It is viewed as a measured approach to roughly cut the number of 2 million constituents close to in half, giving a more representative district for each supervisor to oversee. Part of the motion and ballot measure is to provide no increase to taxpayers. All of these operations and adjustments would have to operate under the existing $45 billion budget. Slide. Another element of this charter reform would be launching an ethics reform. This would have an independent ethics commission responsible for investigating misconduct. We would have a revolving door policy that prohibits county officials from lobbying the county for at least 2 years. And we would authorize the suspension of elected county officials who have criminally been charged with a felony. Slide. Other elements of this include budget transparency. As mentioned before, county departments and agencies will have to propose budgets to be reviewed along with an open public meeting, which does not currently exist. There is an extension to the amount of time and agenda it must be completed and posted. It's going to increase that to 5 days, giving folks an opportunity to review before the meetings. And finally, the governance reform task force, which is going to be utilized should the voters choose this charter reform in November. The governance reform task force is going to be built to help shape what the next steps look like. Slide. And speaking of those next steps, should the ballot measure be voted in November, the governance reform task force, which is mentioned, will be put together 180 days after certification. And then the Independent Ethics Commission by 2026. The Charter Review Commission would meet every 10 years. So that would occur around around the census in 2030. And then every 10 years after that, the Charter Review Commission would be on an ongoing process. 2028, the county executive would be elected. And in 2032, the board expansion would take effect after the census and redistricting processes are completed. There will be community engagement periods throughout. Slide. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Austin, for the presentation. Questions? Yes, Councilman.
2 questions. Is this something that we can vote to support? It's agendized, so.
I think the issue with this is I don't know if each city has looked at it and you know whether each city supports it to come to the COG and give
Can we make a request that cities go back and take a position so that
maybe the next meeting you could
COG can maybe
talk about it?
So I was part of the Cal Cities delegation that met with Supervisor Horvath early in the week, and I think it's a great plan. I support it personally 100%. The one point I made is that I think there is confusion by the elected chief executive. Clearly, it says it's not the CEO and that, but when you talk about you're electing a county executive, it just doesn't sound good. It sounds like for those of us in a city, we're electing the city manager. And I would urge, I mentioned it as well, to find a better designation that sounds we could use the Swedish designation, länshövding, but I don't think that that would work. But we could maybe call it
I second that.
yeah, there you go. We could call it something like maybe the county governor or something that makes it sound that it is not an executive position in the sense that it is a functionary. That to me is the one thing that I think needs to make it clear, everything you've explained. But when you look at it quickly, it sounds like you're just basically electing, what's her name? Who's the current?
Yeah, that's a great point. We do currently have we have an appointed county executive who is.
What's her name, Felicia? Or?
Fezia Davenport is her name.
Fezia,
And
Fezia.
she does oversee our existing budget. She has incredible authority as it stands, and it's a very important position already, which doesn't come with some of the pieces that the other electeds do, such as outreach representatives and opportunities for community engagement.
So that's my only point. Find a better name to sell it, because you've got to sell this to the people who are voting for it, to make it clear that this is sort of like, I know that the county supervisors some used in the past to call the current chair the mayor of the county. And I know there are county supervisors who do not like that designation. So find something that sounds like it is, like the governor or the president of the board or something along those lines.
Appreciate the feedback.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Yeah.
Council member.
Yeah, I would agree to that, because I think that the way it's described, it's rather confusing. I have a question. The CEO, will that position still be there, or that will be eliminated?
So that position the title will change and the position on the org chart will change. That role is going to move into
Is legislative analyst instead?
it's going to be the director of budget and management.
Okay, so it goes here then. Okay. And then it says that person is appointed. Will that person be appointed by the Board of Supervisors or by the county governor? Should be county governor.
I believe it's the
It should.
county governor, work a name here we've got going. I believe that's the case. I'll go ahead and clarify that. I'm pretty sure you're correct. I'll
Yes.
clarify on that one as well.
It absolutely should be, because otherwise you're going to create some.
It is, it's on your org chart that you showed.
It looks
There we
like
go.
it, but clearly.
There we go. Yeah, they will report and be chosen by the elected county executive.
Great. Thank you very much.
My other concern, I actually have a concern about the county governor. And that is that sometimes when we make electable positions, we don't always get the best professional, because we end up in sort of a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. And it becomes sort of a purely political position, and it might not be the best administrator and executive. And that's a concern I have with this reform, is that, it's really going to depend a lot on who actually wants this job and their qualifications. And I would hate to see that it becomes part of the musical chairs. You go from being speaker up in Sacramento and you become the county governor, and then you go on to something else and so on. So my question is the term limit on this position?
I can answer that. And the answer is because it's state law. There was something that I think Sheriff Baca challenged before, that if there is a county elected official who is elected countywide, that I guess unless you change state laws, that you are not allowed to impose term limits. And so from what I understand, Lindsay and the other supervisors who propose this would like for there to be term limits the way that there are for the supervisors, but you'd have to change state law.
Okay.
Okay. Further comments? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Cow, City of LA. I was wondering if there's any examples of other counties that have a county governor or have expanded to 9 supervisors?
Many. Yes. Happy to follow up with you afterwards and talk about some specific examples.
Great. So we're not rewriting the story here. There's been precedent and other examples to follow.
Our current model is the exception.
Okay, great. That's good to know.
And I'm very happy to share information, give presentations to any groups, bodies, folks that any of y'all might be interested in connecting with.
Great. Thank you, Austin, for that. So in terms of the action that we the recommendation on the table is to send a letter maybe to all the individual city governments to ask them to give input, because we will agendize this in the next board meeting for further action. No. Yes. Okay, great. We'll do that. All right, thank you very much. No further action on that. We're still on the same item. There's one more report. The next presentation is the Affordable Housing Homelessness Solutions and Prevention Now Initiative. We have an updated presentation slide deck with each of the board members should have a copy of in front of them. We have Tommy Newman from the United Way joining us online to give us a presentation. Tommy?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Just double checking you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, it's really great to be together, and I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person. I had a previously planned vacation, but really appreciated the invitation and wasn't going to miss it. I think Winnie shared that I could have an hour and a half for this presentation. Is that? No, I will talk quick and try to get to questions and really appreciate the time. So I'll put these slides up here just a second. For anybody who I don't know, my name's Tommy Newman. I'm a vice president at the United Way of Greater LA, and I've been working on issues of housing and homelessness for more than a decade now. And I come on behalf of the Our Future LA County Coalition, which is a coalition of more than 100 organizations that have been working hard to build consensus for a countywide ballot measure that would both, we think, replace and improve our approach to addressing homelessness and housing affordability in LA County. Though the sort of core themes that we'll be talking about throughout the course of this campaign for this measure that is now qualified and placed on the November ballot are talking about how this measure will help make housing more affordable. And we're lucky to have a La Casa board member in the room to talk about how La Casa will continue to build out its vision for making housing more affordable across LA County. We're really going to zero in on expanding access to mental health treatment as a core component of this measure. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we'll talk about all of the ways that accountability, transparency, and oversight requirements are dramatically different for this measure than they were for the previous measure. So these are the three core themes that we'll really be talking about quite a bit through the course of the campaign. One of the things that we really want to emphasize as a citizens-led coalition on this is as we work to build consensus, across community organizations, cities, government agencies. The League of Cities was really active in this process. Many COGs were sharing letters through this process, is that we want to reflect the lessons learned of the work over the last 10 years. And so there are things that have worked well, and there are things that have not worked well, as we have quite honestly scaled up our first ever countywide approach to addressing homelessness and housing affordability in LA County. We've collectively demonstrated that we can help folks move into housing. I think that's pretty clear, with more than 100,000 people having moved into permanent housing over the last 5 years. But what we didn't do nearly enough of was invest in preventing homelessness in the first place. In fact, only 3.4% of the current Measure H funding goes to homelessness prevention. And so that's one of the reasons why, while we've seen so many folks move out of homelessness, we continue to see homelessness increase. We also, at least our analysis is from a coalition side, is that we have not done enough to create that full continuum of housing types and services that are needed. And so while we've invested significantly in supportive housing, which is incredibly important, supportive housing is not the right solution for everybody. And in fact, folks with serious mental illness often need a higher level of care. And there was a study conducted by brilliant coroners and funded by Cedars-Sinai that found that there are nearly 6,400 board and care beds that could come online with a higher reimbursement rate. The reimbursement rate is set primarily by the state, but Measure H funds are actually currently used as a supplement to that reimbursement rate to make those beds available. If we were to bump that reimbursement rate up, we would be able to unlock a larger portion of those board and care beds and add a really important resource that we're missing. And then, of course, the elephant in the room, the iceberg, is that we are short nearly 500,000 units of affordable housing in LA County. Measure H, as you all know, who are well versed in this, did not invest in creating permanent housing, did not invest in the preservation of housing that exists. The concept back then was the county will handle services, cities will do the housing, and all of those things will come together. I think what we've seen is there are many cities, including those in this room, who have stepped up and done housing. There are many cities that don't have the resources to step up and do housing. And so that was one of the reasons that La Casa was created, was to increase resources and coordination to create more affordable housing, to preserve the housing we have, and to help renters stay in their homes. Just a few additional lessons learned. I think what we've seen collectively is that no single city can solve this challenge. We really do need that countywide regional approach for housing. We need to scale up new approaches to financing housing, and so that's a really core component of La Casa. We also need clearer goals, and we need clearer ways to measure whether or not we're actually making progress. Measure H had quite a laundry list of eligible uses, but did not have a clear focus on what it needed to drive forward. And so we think that all in, this measure absolutely reflects those lessons learned. It brings together homeless services as well as homelessness prevention, as well as affordable housing production and preservation in a way that we have not previously seen. And to tie that all together, these are the 5 legally required goals that are named in the measure. And so you can see they blend together both our homeless services system as well as our housing system in ways that we have not done previously. The placeholder numbers are here, increase the number of. That number is required to be set by the newly created executive committee on regional homelessness, which the county created and which I'm sure folks are tracking, has a mix of supervisors, city elected officials, and appointee from the governor. So the measure requires by April 1st, 2025, that the homelessness metrics be set by that body, and the housing metrics on this, specifically number 3 and number 5, be set by the La Casa board and then come together. And so this becomes our set of North Stars here that we can then monitor and track. The measure requires real-time analysis, real-time reporting, and then it also requires consequences if the goals are not achieved. So it requires a minimum of 2.5% of the funding to be moved from lower performing programs to higher performing programs. And so what we've tried to marry together here is a clear North Star, bringing together all of the pieces of the puzzle. And then instead of sort of waiting every year to see how we did and then make some adjustments, or letting funding just roll on autopilot, a much more active management of the funding to drive outcomes and to drive results. I'd say from a coalition perspective, we are particularly excited about number 5. There has never been a countywide goal for reducing the number of people falling into homelessness. And so we think that setting that intention up front and then really having a dedicated approach is a big deal. And we've seen, through the course of the pandemic, that you can make progress on helping folks stay in their homes through emergency rental assistance and other types of programs. And so we really want to scale that up. Measure status, it's on the ballot. It was placed on the ballot by collecting signatures. We were pretty sure that we're the only citizen initiative countywide for a tax in the history of LA County. The Reg Recorder says that's not true, but we can't find any actual evidence of it. So either way, it's on the ballot. It has not received its letter yet. The letters will be announced next Friday, but we've requested Measure A for the letter. Measure A for affordable housing, for access to care, for accountability. So you can see how this all starts to fit together. Measure A, the bold new way for LA County. And so that's the framing. To look at the funding plan and allocation, you got to sort of think of it as 2 large buckets, one for homeless services and mental health care, the other for affordable housing and homelessness prevention. The measure requires a baseline minimum of at least 36% to always be there for La Casa's purposes. That will allow La Casa to bond against these dollars and leverage these dollars in creative ways. But the measure also does allow for funding to move from homeless services into housing. I think all of our goal is to end street homelessness in LA County and not have tens of thousands of people sleeping outside every night. And so that would change how our homeless services system functions. We do believe, the coalition that's worked so hard to put this on the ballot does believe that we will always need to invest in affordable housing production and preservation valuation as long as we have a market-driven system for housing production. And so we've allowed for that flexibility over time while having enough certainty there on the housing front. Something that I think is really important to name here is the Local Solutions Fund. You talked about it a little bit at the beginning of your meeting. This Local Solutions Fund is roughly 4x increase over the current allocation. So in the last budget year for Measure H, it was about a $25 million Local Solutions Fund. Thanks to strong feedback from many of the cities and COGs, the coalition heard that loud and clear and really pushed to increase the size of the Local Solutions Fund. So assuming a $1.2 billion number, this would be $110 million in the Local Solutions Fund, and thus the 4x increase. So what we're seeing here is more predictability for cities and COGs. The La Casa funding formulas are pretty clear. We'll talk about those in a second. And then we're also seeing a larger share in the Local Solutions Fund. Does not require an annual application. It's guaranteed funding that is there for the cities to use, consistent with the purposes of this measure. The Local Solutions Fund can be used for either housing or services. So any eligible use for the measure is valid for the Local Solutions Fund, which is something that we think is really important and exciting. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that shakes out in a second. The source of funds is a sales tax increase. The coalition explored multiple options, including a documentary transfer tax, a parcel tax, and a sales tax, and sales tax for various reasons in terms of coalition support, voter levels of support, is where we landed. For 82 of the 88 cities, that will mean a 1/4 cent increase because this measure will repeal Measure H and put into effect this new measure, Measure A. There are a handful of cities that, because they were already previously at their cap, have not been paying into Measure H. And so because this measure is exempt from the state cap, the legislature passed legislation to exempt it. All cities will therefore pay. And so there will be a handful of cities that have not been paying that will pay going forward. And so those would be a 1/2 cent increase in those 6 cities. The coalition was concerned absolutely about the impact on low-income folks and working people in LA County. And so after a fair amount of research, we hired a research firm to analyze for us what are the impacts on the average low-income family versus average income family. Thanks to many of the exemptions, which it turns out voters are not totally aware of exist, but there are quite a few exemptions to the sales tax. We were able to figure out that the impacts are not the same for low-income families as they are for average income households. And so that was an important data point for us as we were going through our process and trying to select the best path forward. Digging a little bit more deeply into the West Side Cities COG, wanted to be able to share the guaranteed minimum levels of funding for the West Side.
Tommy,
yeah.
Can I stop you? We're going to lose quorum in about a minute. So if you could wrap it up really quickly so we could take action.
Great. Guaranteed minimum level of funding is $9.9 million. This excludes the city of Los Angeles and any unincorporated communities. So this is for all cities in the COG not named Los Angeles. And that is the minimum level of funding. Additional funds, and we can talk about this in questions, certainly can come to these regions. You can see the breakdown here. When you're talking about a housing trust, these are dollars that could go in, a little over $5 million a year into the housing trust. So I'll stop there and happy to chat more.
Okay. I heard that we want to take action. What was the action that's on the table? You want to make a motion?
I think the reason they're here is to ask for the COG's support. And I don't know if we're prepared to do that, but I'm prepared to make a motion that we support the ballot measure.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
I'm not sure it was actually on for action today.
Oh, okay.
I think it may have just been a presentation to inform.
Okay.
All right.
All the
So can
bodies.
we ask our staff to put it on our agenda for action to support?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's a motion on the table to put action for the next meeting to support. Do we have a second? Yes, I'll second. I can second, right? That's true?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'll second. And any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? That's it, we're good? Yeah. Okay. We have an abstention? Austin, is that? Yes,
You are abstaining or
you're abstaining.
Oh, then it's
Okay.
just a three.
There's three.
But I think everybody can know to take the item back to their councils, and if we agendize it for the next meeting, each city can report back about how their independent cities feel about it, and the COG can take action then.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Tommy, for the presentation, and we'll get back to you with further action.
Yeah, happy
this-
to do it, and also happy to meet with staff and dig more deeply into the guaranteed funding for the COG and how that can line up with the housing trust you all are considering.
Okay, great. Takes us to the next agenda item, which is legislation. I just, please refer to the packet for an update from Jeff Kierman on the League of California Cities update. He's not here today, but if there are any questions, please direct them to the COG and they will work with Jeff to provide answers. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, we'll go to the future meeting, which I was already way ahead of everyone, so I'm really proud of my record as my first chairmanship here. So Thursday, October 10th, we'll be at Culver City Hall, Mike Balkman Council Chambers in Culver City. And with that, any further public comments? Yes, Zoe.
Including the anti-Semitism issue that we are facing in our schools are part of the issues that should be framed through the eyes of compassion. And I would like just to present what the Charter for Compassion is and how each city can designate someone to run a chapter. So if you allow me in the next meeting, I would love to make that presentation and bring people from the actual Charter for Compassion. That is a national organization, and each state and each city can choose to sign the Charter for Compassion and make it theirs with their own agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. And so you can reach out to our staff and
I
talk
will.
about that. And I don't know exactly the protocols of how that can come forward, but I'm sure
Yes.
our staff will explain how we can make that happen.
Yes, but from homelessness to the anti-Semitism in our schools, I think this is the right time for each city to affirm it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to go then to adjournment. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all for being here. God bless you all.